County, Virginia?
Do what now?
Dickinson County, Virginia, is it named after him? No.
Actually don't think so. If I'm correct on that. But anyway, so Mr. Dickinson, the courthouse was not here. It was way over that way. And it burnt. And Mr. Dixon went to the county and said, hey, county, you guys will make this a county seat? I'll build a courthouse. And voila! He sure did. Okay, so then it fell into the hands of Dr. and Mrs. Fugate and their children. Okay, then later their kids turned it over to the county. So now, it is kept and maintained and owned by the county. Okay, so now this porch was not original, okay? But, they added this, okay? And the bathroom, everything else is original. Okay, like when they first built it here.
So how long was it, when did it quit being a courthouse that was used?
Okay, we'll look on the thing right here, and I'll know the exact date, okay? And then, it did quit
1819.
Wow.
Oh, thanks.
That's when
Jen.
they built the courthouse in Lebanon.
Okay, moved it there. And then a family, I think their names were Jordans, lived here for a little while in it, and then it just become like, a historic landmark.
It sat empty for quite a few years,
Yeah.
and nobody did anything with it after they moved out. And the historical society got involved, and they brought it back.
Well, that's great.
They started remodeling in 1976.
Yeah.
Thanks, Chris. Okay. So now let's go this way. We'll see the jury room first. Now, the people that did the court, what would happen if you stole a chicken or you did something you wasn't supposed to? Okay, you come up here to court. Now, when you come up here to court, you come in and sign in. You brought food with you. You brought stuff with kids out on the ground. You did sorry, sign in and you're not. So, that's one thing about it.
I don't know his name.
Information there.
Pictures. So, really quick, the area back then, and this most of the furniture here was donated to us by
Down there
local
underneath the tree
residents.
behind the craft house.
The kitchen
Be
had a
sure to
dog
go
truck.
down and support them and get
Here,
a
the house is original. It was a residence for a little while. It was given back to the county, to the Historical Society in 1975. The ladies of the Historical Society came in. There's lots and lots of volunteers, lots of manpower. It took them about 10 years to get it restored back to the way it should have been. But everything, like I said, everything is restored. Most of it is just original stuff that was here. The woodwork and everything was here, and they just had it restored. And here is the parlor. This is kind of like the den at your house now. The kids would come in here. There were not a lot of games to play and things. They'd sit in front of the fire and probably read a lot from the Bible. This furniture was also donated to us. The piano has a story behind it. There's a fellow who came and knew the ladies of the Historical Society, and he said this was the perfect place for this piano. The story was, in his family, he had a great-great-grandfather whose daughter went to school in Paris. She was well educated for a lady at the times. She played the piano really well. She came back home, he bought her this piano. She came back home and she married a guy he didn't like. So he wouldn't let her take the piano with her. So that's just the story. I don't know for sure how true that is, but anyway, it makes for a good story. So he said this was a good place to put the piano, so he wanted it to be here. Yeah. Beautiful. It is beautiful. And the lady, there's another lady here, Mindy, that she plays beautifully, and you might hear her playing on it. This part of the house is a part of a residence. The courthouse is here on the other side. The original courthouse was built across the road, close to the elementary school that's over there. It was a log structure. It was built in the early 1700s, and it burned. Probably Indians attacked, or we really don't know why. They rebuilt it before the Revolutionary War. it and burnt down again. So Henry Dickenson owned this property here, and he said, if you will put the courthouse on my property, he said, I will see that it will be built. It won't burn down again. He sent to Pennsylvania for stonemasons, and they brought the stone in and built the courthouse. About 10 years later, he decided he was going to live here, so he built the residence on the other side. The courthouse was moved to Lebanon in 1819. They moved it there because there was a few houses in a little town, and they said that this area was too savage. And we didn't want courthouse burned again, didn't want Indian attacks, and that Lebanon was a better place for it. So they moved the courthouse there. He still maintained a residence here. He and his family. They didn't hold court cases here anymore because the courthouse was in Lebanon, but they did still do things. There were records that were kept here. And I was told, I'm not sure if it's true or not, but Civil War soldiers came here and mustered into the war, the Civil War. The jail is behind that door there. The steps are not real good, so they've locked the door, but if you want to see the jail, you can go out and around, and there's steps that go down, and you can look inside the jailhouse. Criminals really weren't tried here. They settled land disputes, and the worst thing that you were tried here for was horse thieving. So, but Abingdon held the main court, and lots of times they transported criminals from place to place, and they had to have a place to put them. So they put them in the jail. Henry Dickenson, when he built his house, or he built the other part of the residence, he had a tavern upstairs, one room. You could get a pot of porridge, a mat to sleep on, which was straw or horsehair or whatever, and a cup of coffee and a cup of water for 2 cents. Didn't guarantee that you should have that pallet by yourself. You may have had to share it with several other people, but there was a place in the floor for you to sleep. There were not any other places around here, not very many places at all for you to come and stay. This road was traveled a lot, all the way through Kentucky, all the way through Abingdon, all the way up through Northern Virginia, and this was the way that the people traveled. So, you know, they needed somewhere to stay. Like I said, Henry Dickenson built his residence here, and these are some of the books. I think that book is an original court book if you want to come in and look at it. There's a picture of Polly Dickenson and Nathaniel Dickenson on the wall. They're descendants of Henry Dickenson. I think she was his great-granddaughter. And a lot of the stuff here was donated by Dickensons and Fugates who were involved in the land here, So, like I said, you can come on in and look.
So out in the cemetery, there's a couple of names. Are any of them here?
The probably yes, but the tombstones were brought in. There's nobody actually buried here. These are tombstones that they had moved the graves other places, and they brought the tombstones in. But they're family Dickensons. I'm sure most of them are Dickensons or members of the Dickenson family. I think the author of these books, I think she's out there, isn't she? Okay. I didn't know. Maybe she was here. They had the names and the little profile written underneath it on that gold plate. They were also donated. So I think that was a press, like a
Press
seal.
seal? That's what
I
it
think it was a seal. I don't think it works now. So it was donated. The ladies from the Historical Society have done an excellent job, and they have brought us up on to bring this back. Someone lived here, you know, in the early 70s, and it was a house that I raised.
Hair to you guys. Of course, they've been reupholstered, but here is original. It was horsehair. You know, like a lot of the older furniture was the horsehair, and you're welcome to touch it. But I just think that's fascinating.
They said that was original horsehair was what was on it.
Yeah. You would like to, that was the original upholstery. It's originally closed off from the dwelling, and you could get to it. There was way to get to it from the courthouse side. But if y'all just want to follow me, this would have been the room above the courthouse where people could rent and stay for the night. And you might pay just a little bit to sleep on a mat beside a total stranger, because back in those days there was no such thing as privacy. If you didn't have lice or bed bugs when you came here, I'll out guarantee that you did when you left. But back in the time when this was thriving, this was a frontier, and people were coming in here for land. And I'm sure, as Jeannie told you, there weren't hardly any criminal trials other than horse thievery tried downstairs. Everything was for land, and they had to travel a lot of distances. So if, you know, the people could afford it, because I'm sure it was, you know, quite a saving time or, you know, an ordeal to get together enough just to stay up here, but this would have been the room that they would have stayed in. And now we have turned this into a museum, and we're trying to represent each of the wars. I find really fascinating this doctor's kit over here. A lot of those tools date from the Civil War era. You can actually see a saw that would have been used for amputations, and you can tell that it was used a lot. And I'll just kind of let you guys look around, and any questions that you have. And then when you all are finished, just take your time. We'll go on to the other rooms. And where I love history, I have to smell stuff. So if you want to smell anything, that's fine. I do want to show you all, of course, they were talking about the uniform. This lady was a nurse in World War II. And she, or I guess her family donated this, and it's just beautiful. And of course, there's a write-up on her.
It's Kathleen Taylor. She's from Hanover.
Okay.
And she was a teacher.
Okay.
First grade teacher.
Okay. Okay. And that came from Stuart Landon Cattle. They had a store. And also, a lot of these little relics over here in this case, when they were doing the renovations for the old courthouse, they found these in the grounds. There's an old soldier's boot and hog's teeth, just all sorts of tools from all of the years and the 2 to 3 centuries. Well, at that time it would have been about 2 centuries worth of history here.
Soldier Madison Ray, written between 1861 and 1863, and thoughtfully preserved in his descendants of the interesting.
It's said that when the Dickensons first built this place, of course, a lot of the older families had big families. And, you know, even in our lifetimes, brothers and sisters have slept 3 to the bed. And I do want to point out, none of this furniture is original to the structure. Everything that we have here has been donated. So if you want to just look around and have any questions about your knives.
Looks like a curio.
Yeah. Well, now the couch is real leopard skin. I haven't gotten the full story. I just heard Miss Owens telling someone a minute ago that the lady that donated, that originally owned this couch, had the skins imported from Africa.
Oh, wow.
That kind of hurts my heart. But you know, back in those days, things like that was just a given.
You got one of those in blue.
Yeah, this is the gorgeous room. Now, rooms like this, okay, of course, Jeannie was probably told you about the stairs that come up here. They could bring their family up here because this was a frontier and there were still raids and even highwaymen. But the vernacular in Russell County at that time was usually this would be the eldest daughter's bedroom. And I always like to make a joke that the father could lock her up here at night to keep her from sneaking out. But we have had donated a lot of old clothing. This is an original mourning garb. And that bed, the story is that the fellow that it originally belonged to had it specially made. And he was really, really tall, about close to 7 feet tall. And he had stomach issues, so he slept sitting up. Because, I mean, I'm short, so I could probably fit in it. But you imagine somebody tall. But as someone who suffers from acid reflux, I think that would probably be a good idea. But we've even got, I think it's something just how little people were back then. We've even got original nightgown, pantaloons from the Victorian, well, probably Edwardian era.
Is this a picture of somebody local or just
No, that is actually called Madam X. There was a big, I have read about that. That's just a print. We don't know who donated it. We just found it here. Somebody just brought it, but I think it was, he's one of my favorite artists from the time. It was one of his friends. But anyway, I think the artist, it was in France. And she was a socialite, but she was kind of more,
Risque.
yeah, risque. And that picture was very scandalous for that time because this would have been like the late Victorian era. And yeah, he got a lot of flack for painting this picture. But he was a very good artist because I've looked at a lot of his work. And his art was just beautiful. And he's, of course, more famous posthumously than he was at that time. But doing that painting hurt him. I wish I could remember his name. I've forgotten more than I ever knew. But, yeah. It is a beautiful painting.
It is.
There's a lot of, if you've noticed any of the pictures in here. And I had a very interesting question from someone turning a while ago. He said, well, the people that lived here, were they maybe like first, second generation of European descendants, because a lot of these paintings look like paintings from Europe. But I said, well, that's, very good observation, but these were all donated, so. But, well, we know most everybody in this region came from Scotland, Ireland, and England. I can trace my roots back to Wales. And, we had a very strong Scotch-Irish population here at that time. And of course the way we talk, and I'm a big Anglophile, so I watch a lot of British TV, British shows, everything. And even in the Lake District, the way that they talk, their unique dialect, and they're in northern England, they say a lot of things like we say. Like my grandfather called his mom and dad Mam and Pap. Well, they do over there. And it's just really interesting that the way we talk here in the Appalachians, this area, we think, and we, people treat us like we're, a bunch of old hillbillies. I think we've got the richest blood in the United States. Yeehaw. But that's pretty much it. And if you all have any questions.
It's a counterbalance loom. If one's down, the other one's up. And you call it beating when you do that. As you see, one goes up, one goes down. So you can only do very simple weaves with this, nothing fancy, just plain, what's called plain weave. Over and under, back and forth. And this will be a rag rug, like the one on the floor. This loom is 20th century construction, but it was built old school. You'll notice that it's pretty much all put together with pegs. Yeah. There's a few pieces of metal in it, but not much. It's all pretty much wood. The reed is metal, but that's actually new. They replaced that when they moved the loom up here. The kind of loom that the old coverlets would have been made on. The ivory and blue, ivory and red overshot coverlets would have been made on a big barn loom. In fact, if you look at most of them, you'll see the seam because they were made, 3 feet and another 3 or 4 feet, and then they sewed them together in the middle because they only had that much width on their loom.
Women's clubs, which has clubs all over the world. And we've got some great storytellers here for you today. But just before we get started with them, let me tell you, we have a haunted history walk coming up in downtown Honaker on October 14th. If anybody is interested, it's a fun time. We tell some folklore and some cool stories about the town of Honaker, a little bit of history mixed in there, which makes it a lot of fun. And for those who like jump scares and some spooky stuff, we've got a haunted hayride and a haunted house in the back. So we've got a little bit of everything for everybody. It's at Honaker High School is where we're kicking off.
Hello, my name is Bryce. I will be telling you some information about William Russell Sr. William Russell Sr. was born in 1735, Coupler Gap, County, Virginia. Culpeper. He enlisted a private in the Virginia militia. He rose through the ranks to the colonel of the 5th Virginia Regiment. He commanded a substantial part of the American forces at the Battle of Kings Mountain. He was Brigadier General for his service. He was captured by the British and held prisoner after the fall of Charleston in 1780. He was also present at the surrender of Cornwallis. At Yorktown, he served in the Virginia legislature at the time in 1793. Of his death, and around Russell County, Virginia is named for him. William Russell's first wife was Tabitha Adams. His second wife was Elizabeth Henry. Russell aided in the drafting of the Declaration of Independence. Russell was also an original member of the Society of the Cincinnati. He was first buried in the Allen Family Cemetery, but later moved to the Arlington National Cemetery. The Russell County militia included William Russell, Henry Moore, James Nall, John Snooty, William Moore, Henry Hamlin, Samuel Ritchie, Nathan Brown, John Duncan, Andrew King, Henry Dickenson, where we were currently are at his home, Samuel Porter, John Cronk, David Cowan, Michael Oscar, William Russell Jr., Thomas Johnson, Humphrey Dickinson, James Bush, James Burke, Benjamin Nicholson, John Anderson, David Burney, George Oscar, Obadiah Terrell, Joseph Kincaid, Thomas Detman, William Colwyn, William Bush, David Gass, Joseph Moore, William Kirkham, George Campbell, James Black, John English, William Hayes, Joseph Duncan, William Blackmore, John Blackmore, Andrew Davis, John Blackmore Jr., Richard Staunton, John Carter, and William Carr. Some of the first settlers in Russell County. A man named Castle, first name, unknown, maintained his headquarters in the western part of present-day Russell County. He ranged forests until it became known as Castlewood. The Clinch settlement that's mentioned in Beaufort County Court 5/10/1770 mentions families of Bickley, James, Black, Bowen, Bush, Crouch, Dickenson, Duncan, Fraley, Hamblin, Harold, Long, Neese, Osborne, Porter, Ritchie, Oscar, Robertson, William, Russell, and Morton. Now this is Suzette with a little bit of this story.
My story is taken from A Short History of Extreme Southwest Virginia by Luther F. Addington. It was written in the early 1950s. The Indian attack on James Boone, October the 9th, 1773 in Powell Valley on the Wilderness Trail. Although General Edward Braddock's army was defeated July the 9th, 1755 at the forks of the Ohio and his army retreated eastward, the English persisted in renewing attacks upon the French and Indian until French were expelled from the Ohio River Valley. However, the Indian attacks along Virginia's borders continued. The attacks became more intense. The Cherokees hated the southwestern Virginia frontiersmen. The Treaty of Peace signed between the English and French in Paris on February the 10th, 1763 did not help. Furthermore, the Cherokees, Shawnees, and the Mingos realized that the Virginia settlers were fast encroaching upon their favorite hunting grounds in southwest Virginia, and they were determined not to give up without a fight. In the summer of 1773, Daniel Boone met Captain William Rusell in Clinch Valley, and they seem to have agreed to unite a strong party for a settlement in Kentucky. They planned to reach by way of Cumberland Gap. Boone, after making an agreement with Captain Rusell for farming implements and seed, returned to his home in the Yadkin. There he persuaded his wise people, the Bryans, and 5 other families to make the trip too. On September the 25th, 1773, they set out with what belongings they could take. Upon reaching Wolf Hills, now Abingdon, Virginia, Daniel sent his 17-year-old son James, in company with John and Richard Mendenhall, also from North Carolina, northward across country to Captain Russell's at Castlewood to obtain flour and farming tools. Daniel said he and the party would follow the old wilderness trail through Big Moccasin Gap over Walden's Ridge, go into camp in Powell Valley, and let the women and children rest until James and his party arrived. At Captain Russell's home, Henry Rusell, 17-year-old son of Captain Russell, a man by the name of Isaac Crabtree, and 2 slaves, Charles and Adam, joined James's party in order to help with the load of flour and farming tools. Captain Russell himself said he must follow later since he had some necessary work to do at home before leaving. he would join David Gass, who lived 8 miles downriver, where he laid claim to 435 acres of land in the Sinking Creek area. James and his party set out October the 8th, following the old Fincastle Trail down past David Gass's place and crossed the Clinch River at Hunter's Ford, now Dungannon. From that point, they passed through Rye Cove and took the Wilderness Trail over Powell Mountain to the headwaters of Walden's Creek. James and his companions could see signs probably made by his father's party. He knew that the place of rendezvous was but a few miles ahead. However, darkness overtook them, and fearing they might lose their way, they went into camp. They built a fire and ate a scantly meal. Then, lying down beside the fire, they tried to sleep. Although weary from the long, hard walk, they couldn't sleep for the incessant howling of the wolves, evidently disturbed by the firelight. The Mendenhall boys were so alarmed at the weird howling that they walked up and down, listening and making no effort to conceal their fear. Isaac Crabtree, who was also afraid but didn't want to show it, joked about the howling. "You boys are cowards," he said. "Might as well get used to the noises. Once in Kentucky, we're going to hear wolves and even buffalo howl from the treetops." The fire died down. The light dimmed. The howling receded further and further into the forest. As the day dawned, the men and boys sat up, stretched, listening. For a while, there was no sound but a whisper of the waters of the Walden's Creek and the eerie whisper of the wind in the trees. But suddenly, that calm was broken by the war whoop of Indians who rushed up with knife blades raised and guns crackling. Henry Rusell was shot through the hips and brought down. Then an Indian attacked him with a hunting knife and began to stab him. He grabbed the knife blade with his bare hands, trying to protect himself, but he failed. Soon he lay dead. Yet the Indians shot arrows into his body, and beside him they placed a war club. The others in the party tried to get away, but were shot down, save Isaac Crabtree and the 2 slave boys. Adam watched the massacre from a pile of driftwood, helpless. Soon he tried to find his way out, but got lost and wandered for several days in the forest before finding his way back to Castlewood. Charles was taken prisoner and forced to travel with the captors. About 40 miles from the scene of the attack, 2 Indians quarreled over possession of him, each wanting to take him north and sell him. In order to settle the dispute, the leader of the party killed Charles with a tomahawk. Years later, Madam Rusell, feeling particular sympathy for Adam, freed him from his state of slavery. Isaac Crabtree might have continued on the trail to tell Daniel Boone what had happened to his son, but instead he took to the woods and returned to Castlewood. Because of the outrage, he became deeply embittered toward all Indians and swore vengeance. Because of this attitude, he stirred trouble, which only made Indian threats on the settlers more pronounced. But the story was told by Captain William Rusell and Captain David Gass, who came upon the murder scene later in the day. There in the forest, on the Wilderness Road, simple burial rites were held and the victims buried. Although members of the party were alarmed, Daniel Boone still wanted to continue the journey. Captain Rusell, however, persuaded him to take his family to the neighborhood of Castlewood and await a change in the warlike behavior of the Indians. Boone had sold his possessions on the Yankin and could not return there, so he took Captain Russell's advice and went with him to Clinch River Valley. The remainder of the party returned to the Yankin or the Holston settlements. Boone said he didn't want to crowd the families in either Russell's or Moore's Fort, both of which were in Castlewood vicinity. He said he could support his family during the autumn and winter with his trusty night rifle, and he could find an abandoned cabin, he would take it. Fortunately, Captain David Gass had such a cabin on his farm situated about halfway between Hunter's Ford, now Dungannon, and Castlewood, known as Sinking Creek area. Boone and his family stayed there for the winter. If you would like to hear more of that story, you'll have to read it in the book. Thank you.
Would you like a cornhusk doll?
All right, once you get this part, okay, so you've covered him over like that. Now we're gonna add on and we're gonna give it a little bit of a dress. So we're gonna take this part right here and we're just gonna sort of wrap it around the bottom. And you can make it as full as you wanna make it, just however big you wanna make it to be. add on as many pieces as you like.
My head's tiny. I better not make the dress too big.
How far back does this tradition go?
Actually, cornhusk dolls began with the Indians. They did it, and then, of course, early
So it didn't come across the ocean then, probably?
No.
Okay.
No. Or at least from all that I've read, no. Okay. Once you get her dress about as full as you want to get it, you're going to take another little piece of twine and you're going to give her a waist. Okay, now we're going to set her down and we're going to work on her arms. So we're going to take a little bit of a smaller piece, one of the thinner pieces, and I'm going to fold him in on himself. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of hold him up against here and say, okay, that's about how long I want my arms to be, so this width right here. So then I'm going to take it and I'm going to sort of roll it like this.
Told y'all. Told y'all we're rolling stuff over
Yeah.
here.
Oh yeah. All right. Now that you've done this part, now we're going to tie it on either end to offset our hands. So it's going to have just a little piece. Oh, sorry. So sorry.
No.
Okay. So now I'm just going to go ahead and snip some so that you guys can go ahead and work with them. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take my twine around. And I'm just going to tie.
There's some corn out there. Here. I'm still doing that.
You can either tie them one time, double knot them, however you want to do it. Just whatever makes sense for you.
Do you want you to come down there?
And you can cut off your extra if you want to cut off your extra on either end.
I feel like a kindergartner.
The twine does kind of make you feel like you have sausage fingers. That is difficult sometimes to work with. So if you need to get you another piece, you're more than welcome to just cut yours.
Not yours or just tying it once?
I just tied mine once. As long as you tie it real tight, it should be all right. If they fall off, you get some. Okay.
And just count to 10, and that's our star. Now, as I said, our Constitution, our Declaration of Independence, all of our original documents were written with the feathers. Now, at this organization, you'll notice this couple right here, they are using the feathers, the quill pen, and they are using the ink to write their name on a piece of paper. Because, now, that you got it written, how does that compare with the Declaration? Whoa. Yeah, it does really. Now, the feathers, or actually the ink that I'm using, is not iron gall ink. Now, Isaac right here, he has a setup with the quill pen. He has the iron gall ink. But mine, what ink am I using? Smell of it.
Smells like coffee.
It smells, that's what I was going to say, coffee.
It is coffee. I use coffee because I wanted to remember the Boston Tea Party. The tea was thrown into the bay. From that day on, people, America became a coffee drinking nation. That's why we drink coffee instead of tea like they do in Britain. Now this next station, sir, if you'll pick up one of the pieces of paper that's in the basket, and I take the scissors, and I want you to cut along the dotted line. because you are demonstrating for the class. Now, the bottom part, the big part, throw it in the trash. Keep that little bitty part.
Just a little bitty part.
And just hang on there for a minute. Now, when George Washington, General Washington at that time, he and his committee, they came to Betsy Ross and said, now Betsy said, we want you to make us a new flag for our new country. They had the Hopkins flag and these other flags, but we wanted this new one. And so George was telling her, says, now Betsy says, we want to start with 6 points. Ma'am, will you count the points on the flag to start?
Over here.
Uh-huh.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
How many?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Whoa, cut the tip off. Now, sir, if you will turn around and face the class and open that up.
Hold again.
And hold it up for everybody to see. How many points does it have? 5. Guess what? That's why our flags today have 5 points, not 6. It's because of Betsy Ross's work. And so now that one, whenever I was doing the angle on it, I did it a little bit. I'm a retired school teacher from Knoxville, Tennessee, Science. By doing these crafts that we think are a lot of fun, you can teach so much. We can teach geometry with this one because I did the angle a little bit too sharp. Well, what is that angle? Well, maybe so much like the quill pen. I was telling Isaac was asking me how I made mine. I said, I just pick up a feather and just whack it. You whack it at a 45-degree angle. So, whoa, these angles, geometry, yes, that's important. So you can teach so much by doing this. Now you will notice the animals that I have on my table. I'm a storyteller. And so I tell stories with these animals. Each one tells a story. And so I've got to tell you this one real quick. You notice the bobcat. He's my latest friend. I ordered him off the internet a few weeks ago. Sir, will you hold up the chipmunk? Now the chipmunk, I love little chipmunks. Fast, oh my goodness, they're fast. You always know a chipmunk because of the 2 white stripes down its back. Well, how did it get its stripes? Chipmunk used to love to play tricks on bobcat. Bobcat would be laying there asleep and chipmunk would run up and just smack him on the nose. And I mean, this hightail it. While bobcat's all fuming and fussing around, chipmunk escapes. One day, bobcat says, says, I'll get you this time, you wily rascal. So he's laying there like he's asleep, but he's got one eye partly open. And he's watching chipmunk creep up. And chipmunk gets ready to smack him on the nose, and bobcat wakes up and grabs chipmunk. Oh no. Chipmunk, being very fast, was able to escape the paw of bobcat. But not without harm, because that is why to this day.
Well, dig a little deeper in the well, boys, dig a little deeper in the well. If you want to get a cool drink of water, you better dig a little deeper in the well. Well, dig a little deeper in the well, boys, dig a little deeper in the well. If you want to get a cool drink of water, you better dig a little deeper in the well. Don't be fooled by the things you see. If you want to get to the heart of things, you gotta look way down deep. Well, second place, don't get it, girl. The winner gotta come in first. There's nothing worse than a second chance that leads you to the dirt. Well, dig a little deeper in the well, boys. Dig a little deeper in the well. If you want a good cool drink of water, you better dig a little deeper in the well. Oh, dig little deeper in the well. If you want a good cool drink of water, you better dig a little deeper in the well. Well, good man needs a good woman. She's the rock that'll make him strong. She'll be there to lean on when the whole world's done him wrong. There ain't nothing like good loving, and that's the way it's meant to be. Go and find you a man that'll be good to you like your daddy's been to me. Well, dig a little deeper in the well, boys. Dig a little deeper in the well. If you want to get a cool drink of water, you better dig a little deeper in the well. Well, dig a little deeper in the well, boys. Dig a little deeper in the well. If you want a good cool drink of water, you better dig a little deeper in the well. And if you want a good cool drink of water, you better dig a little deeper in the well.
I heard a song the other day of someone poured whiskey in the well.
Grab another heat. at that temperature. It's what they call black heat.
Get a handle on it momentarily. There we go. I like to do these little minimalist scrolls. Had some people tell me they look like a swan or something. If I just have to do a quick demonstration of scrolls, I do stuff like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Soda pop, I still dream about that. Rocky Top, you'll always be home sweet home to me. Good old Rocky Top. Rocky Top, Tennessee. Rocky Top, Tennessee. Yeah! Two strangers climbed old Rocky Top. They was looking for a moonshine still. The strangers ain't come down from Rocky Top, and I reckon they ain't never gonna neither. Well, corn don't grow and all on Rocky Top. Well, that soil's too rocky by far. And that's why all the folks on Rocky Top, they get their corn from a jar. Rocky Top, you'll always be home sweet home to me. Good old Rocky Top, Rocky Top, Tennessee. Rocky Top, Tennessee. How about another ride? Rocky Top, you'll always be home sweet home to me. Good old Rocky Top, Tennessee. Rocky Top, Tennessee. Rocky Top, Tennessee.